So good evening, everybody. I am assuming that it is evening for everybody and that nobody is tuning in from Europe at approximately 1 or 2 a.m., but we all follow our own schedules, so you never know. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we had quite a few registrations for this webinar, but I also know that people lead busy lives and a lot of people just register so that they can get the recording afterwards. So based on that, I'm going to jump right into it. First, I will introduce myself. My name is Megan Esser. I am a registered holistic nutritionist, and I'm the managing director at ITL Health, and we are a company that focuses on magnesium supplements. And we focus on magnesium because magnesium is one of the essential foundational nutrients to our body. It is responsible for 80% of what our body does, and it is very difficult to achieve optimal health if we have a magnesium deficiency. So we love to run these webinars on all topics magnesium, which we have no shortage of because it really does help for so much in the body. And this season, we decided to tackle weight loss as it is spring, even though it doesn't always feel like it. But if you follow seasonal eating, in the winter, you tend to eat a little bit of heavier foods, more stews, more root vegetables, maybe a bit more carbs. And then as the weather starts to warm up, we start to naturally shed those few pounds by focusing on lighter foods, colder foods, raw foods, that sort of thing. So if you are in Canada, in most parts, you won't focus on eating light foods for a couple more months, but we are heading into that season. So I am just going to share my screen, and let's hope that I share the right screen. If not, please bear with me. Home, sorry, and perfect. I believe you can all see the first slide, which says magnesium and weight loss. So just to let everybody know, we will open up the chat for questions at the end. It will be open for questions. I'll address them at the end. So if you have one, if you just want to throw it in the chat so that it's there at the end and you don't forget, feel free. But I won't be looking at the chat until the very end. So weight loss and magnesium. Weight loss is a very complicated subject because it's not a single cause and effect. So there are many things that can go wrong in the body that can lead to weight gain or difficulty losing weight. And the problem is that many people who struggle with weight don't know what their issue is. And often their issue is multi-causal. And so that makes it hard to tackle. So anybody that's struggled to lose weight will probably want to throttle you when you say just eat less and exercise more. Anybody that has struggled knows it's not that simple. It's only that simple for a small part of the population. So it's very frustrating when people say this to us, but sometimes we don't know where to turn. And like I said, it is multi-causal, so sometimes you don't even know what point to start at. Now, I would say that if you have a magnesium deficiency, it is a great point to start because it is very difficult to achieve optimal health if you're deficient in magnesium because it is so foundational to the body. And a magnesium deficiency will cause several systems in the body to go awry, and it must be corrected for not only proper weight management, but overall health. So magnesium will not be a magic bullet for weight loss, but it is a key component. And anybody that claims they have a magic bullet for weight loss, it's probably either embellishing the truth or it's going to be very temporary, because until nutrients deficiencies are addressed and until balance in the body is achieved, we will not have the optimal weight management that we want. So this presentation will discuss some of the main causes of difficulty losing weight and how magnesium can directly improve this issue. So just a few notes about magnesium before we get started about weight loss. So a large amount of the population is deficient in magnesium. Some estimates put it at more than half of the global population, and others put it as high as 80%. So we're dealing with a very common and high deficiency. Magnesium is depleted in our food due to improper farming practices. So it's just depleted in our soil in the last 50 years because we haven't done the right things to our soil. And it's also depleted in our food due to improper food preparation. Now, this can range from eating too much processed or convenience foods to even if we cook our own foods, if we're not preparing them properly. So magnesium is very complicated to kind of keep in food. And so we might say, well, I cook all my own food and I focus on whole foods. Well, if you're not eating the right foods soaked and the right foods raw and the right foods cooked, you might not be getting the maximum amount of your magnesium that you could be. Another important thing to note is that less than 1% of the magnesium in our body is found in our blood. So this means if you get a blood test and the doctor says your magnesium level is fine, that means they can only tell that 1% is fine. And that 1% will almost always be fine because it must be in your blood for proper blood flow through your heart. So it's very difficult to tell from a test if your magnesium is deficient. And lastly, as we mentioned, approximately 80% of biochemical reactions in the body are magnesium dependent. So you can see how much can go wrong in the body if it doesn't have enough magnesium to do all of this processes, which some estimates, again, put between 800 and 1,000 biochemical processes that need magnesium. So first, I would like to talk about magnesium and blood sugar. So when insulin production is impaired, our blood sugar levels stay high, and our livers store too much glucose and send it to fat cells, which leads to weight gain. And if this cycle keeps up, your risk of type 2 diabetes is high. Now, you don't have to have type 2 diabetes to struggle with high blood sugar. Your blood sugar might climb to a certain level that then you're diagnosed with diabetes, but you can still have high blood sugar and not have diabetes. So magnesium is a cofactor of many enzymes involved in glucose metabolism and has an important role in insulin action. It's involved in your body's ability to secrete insulin, and also it helps your cells use insulin more effectively. So it does two things, helps secrete it and helps our body use it more effectively. So it's really wondrous for the blood sugar. So according to a review published in the World Journal of Diabetes, type 2 diabetes is associated with magnesium deficiency, and research has linked high magnesium diets with lower risk of type 2 diabetes. So that's very clear. Magnesium helps us with our blood sugar and helps us not get diabetes. And in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition, it says for anyone with low levels of the mineral, magnesium may offer better blood sugar control. So if you're low in magnesium and you start correcting that deficiency, it will likely offer you better blood sugar control, which often translates to your body being able to lose weight better and not store so much fat. So rather than converting your glucose from your food into fat storage, it will help you convert it into fuel. So that's what magnesium is doing through the processes in the body that it's working on. Next, we have magnesium and metabolism. So magnesium directly affects the metabolism's ability to convert food into energy, which is known as ATP or adenosine triphosphate. So it's the main source of energy in the cells, and it must bind to a magnesium ion in order to be biologically active. So if you don't have enough magnesium, it is very difficult to have the cellular energy that you need to carry out all these processes, metabolism being a key one. Now, metabolism can be defined as a process by which your body converts food or drink into energy. So when we have food or drink, we want it to turn into energy. We don't want it to store into fat in our body. So if the ATP energy process isn't functioning at its full potential, your body might not convert this food as efficiently. So next I want to talk about magnesium and exercise. So although exercise is not the be-all end-all for weight loss, it definitely is important in being fit and healthy and a weight loss journey. So magnesium improves exercise and athletic performance, partly because it boosts cellular energy, like we just talked about, and partly because it improves muscle repair. It does this through muscle relaxation and through protein synthesis. Now, studies were done that showed in severe magnesium deficiency developing over 4 months. So, 4 months isn't a super long time to develop a severe deficiency, or if you're deficient, it's hard to get severe in 4 months. But regardless, the study looked at 4-month severe deficiency, and it showed that total protein synthesis in the spleen and thymus was depressed by 40 to 50%, which is very significant. So magnesium is essential for that protein synthesis. So magnesium is also an essential electrolyte, which is important to replenish while working out. And without sufficient magnesium, the body can create a buildup of lactic acid, which causes post-workout pain, tightness, and cramps. And again, that goes back to the muscle relaxation. You need your muscles to be relaxed after a workout and not have this lactic acid buildup, or you're very prone to injury and muscle pain. And as an article in the Washington Post put it, there is no magic bullet for fitness, but magnesium comes close. So it's a really great mineral to add when you work out. Magnesium and water retention. So research studies have proven that magnesium can help with bloating and water retention. And there are many reasons we retain water, but regardless of the reason, this extra fluid in our body can account for more weight than some people realize. And this is especially true for women who struggle more with lymphatic flow than men. And I am not kidding. I have seen women carry several pounds of water, and you can see the spots that it accumulates, and they assume that it's just areas where they store more fat, but it's not fat, it's water. And although you might say, well, that doesn't really count for weight loss, it's just water. If you're constantly carrying that around, it's still weight, and it's still something that your body shouldn't be carrying. So magnesium has been called the forgotten electrolyte, because it's, not the main player like sodium and potassium are, but magnesium is needed to activate the pump that transports sodium and potassium in and out of the cells. So you could have all the right levels of sodium and potassium, but if you don't have enough magnesium to activate that transport, then it doesn't really matter if you have the right electrolyte balance. So it's extremely important as an electrolyte mineral in that regard. And one of the causes of water retention can be electrolyte imbalance. So when you have the right nutrients to balance your electrolytes, your body can start to shed that water. Now, another cause of water retention is hormone imbalance. So when your hormones are not balanced, you can also retain water. We already touched on how magnesium can help regulate the hormone insulin, but magnesium is also necessary for proper thyroid hormone production. So if the thyroid is underactive, the body has a difficult time with metabolism regulation, which leads to weight gain. And many people know that if they're struggling to lose weight, they should get their thyroid checked, as a sluggish thyroid leads to difficulty losing weight. So magnesium is really necessary to keep that thyroid functioning properly. It's also essential to the production of steroid hormones such as estrogen, progesterone, DHA, and testosterone. So one of the liver's role is to help regulate the balance of sex hormones, thyroid hormones, cortisone, and other adrenal hormones, and magnesium also improves liver function. So not only does magnesium improve liver function to help balance these hormones, it's also essential to the production of all of these hormones. So it's very, very important in hormone balance. Magnesium for sleep and stress. So high stress and poor sleep are linked to the release of cortisol, which is a stress hormone that affects fat distribution, causing fat to be stored centrally and increases visceral fat. So cortisol is often associated with that belly fat, which is kind of a stress-induced fat. So magnesium helps to mitigate some of this risk by reducing stress in the body and improving overall sleep quality, which is very important in a weight loss journey. Now, studies also show that a lack of sleep disrupts our hunger hormones, ghrelin and leptin, and that could cause us to overeat. And magnesium supports our nervous system and muscular system to properly relax at night. So you can see on this slide, this cycle of magnesium deficiency. So if you have increased stress and anxiety, then you have more magnesium that's excreted with urinary extraction. Whoops, sorry. That leads to increased stress and anxiety because you have low levels of magnesium that makes you more vulnerable to stress. So this just keeps looping around because you're losing more and more magnesium and you have more difficulty handling that stress, and it just keeps going and going. So magnesium is essential to breaking this vicious cycle of magnesium deficiency and stress. Next, I want to talk about magnesium and inflammation. So chronic inflammation can be responsible for weight gain. It can inhibit metabolism regulating hormones. It can inhibit metabolism regulating hormones, and it also disrupts hunger mechanisms. So just like we talked about how sleep can disrupt that, so can chronic inflammation. It also contributes to metabolic disorders. So metabolic disorders are very important to consider because often metabolic disorders come with weight gain. And often when we have metabolic disorders, it makes it harder to lose weight, and it's often a symptom together. So inflammation is a huge factor in this. So magnesium plays an important role in inflammation, as studies indicate that it can reduce C-reactive proteins, also known as CPR, which thus reduce inflammation. So CRP, sorry, I said CPR. CRP is a substance that the liver produces in response to inflammation. So you don't want the liver producing CRP, and you want magnesium to help reduce those CRPs. Now, here's a quote from the Journal of the American College of Nutrition. Most Americans consume magnesium at levels below the RDA. Individuals with intakes below the RDA are more likely to have elevated CRP, which we talked about causes inflammation that can lead to weight gain. But this particular study said which may contribute to cardiovascular disease risk. So we did our webinar last month on heart health. So that's not the focus of this webinar, but it is important to mention how much all of these intertwine together. So you can see that magnesium deficiency is now causing problems perhaps with cardiovascular disease and inflammation and weight gain and. And all of these go hand in hand with metabolic disorders. So the last component that I want to talk about with magnesium and weight loss is magnesium and mood. So weight loss requires a lot of tenacity and determination. So since magnesium is a calming mineral to the muscles, the brain, and the nerves, it can help improve overall focus. So it also helps you just focus on that prize. No, I'm going to do this. Studies also show that magnesium might help to boost mood and lower the risk for depression. And this is very important when we consider weight loss, because even if we don't consider ourselves depressed, if we are feeling down in any way, it makes it very difficult to forge on with the goals that we have. We've all had a bad day. We've all had bad news in our life when we feel unmotivated, and it's much easier to reach for the chocolate, the chips, the fast food, the alcohol when we are feeling down. Very rare when we are feeling down do we say, I feel like a walk in a salad. So magnesium is needed for the body to produce serotonin, which is a brain chemical that's often associated with mood and emotions. So research shows that reduced serotonin transmission may contribute to depression. So again, we need magnesium to boost the serotonin so that we don't struggle with our mood. There are multiple research studies that have linked magnesium supplementation with reduction in depression in human trials. So again, very important human trials. So this is, real life stuff. And there was a book that came out called Magnesium in the Central Nervous System, and they recommend that a dietary supplement of 600 to 800 milligrams per day of magnesium, other than magnesium oxide, should be a universal strategy for depression. So this recommendation is a nice segue into my next point, that not all magnesium is well absorbed. And as they recommended supplementation, the best way to ensure adequate magnesium levels is through supplementation. Now, this particular study that we just read, they said that you should take a magnesium supplement other than magnesium oxide. So this is very important because studies show that magnesium oxide only has a 4% absorption rate. So again, not all magnesium is well absorbed. You can't assume just because it's in a pharmacy or health food store that it is a well absorbed magnesium. Magnesium oxide is quite cheap, it's inexpensive, and it has a very small molecular size. So you could easily see a little capsule with a lot of magnesium for a low price and you think, great, I'm getting my magnesium. But then a few days later, you're going to say, they said magnesium would help with my sleep and stress and everything else, and it's not helping. This magnesium doesn't work. But it's not that magnesium doesn't work, it's that you need to find a well-absorbed magnesium to suit your needs. So at ITL Health, we focus on the best absorbed forms and formulas of nutrients. So this not only includes the right forms of nutrients for your body to be able to absorb them the best, but it also ensures that we also ensure that fillers and other ingredients aren't preventing absorption in your body. So some supplements contain fillers that actually prevent that particular substance from absorbing. So we go with no fillers at all, nothing to hamper the absorption into your body. So our main flagship product was Mag 365 Ionic Magnesium Citrate. It's a powder, and because it's ionic, it makes it highly absorbable. Proprietary blend of ingredients to make it very absorbable for your body. So the nice thing about a powder is it's more economical, and you can change the amount that you take, or you can experiment with the amount. So you'll remember that that study for depression recommended 600 to 800 milligrams, which is interesting because the RDA is usually around 350 milligrams, 400 milligrams, depending your age and sex and what country you're living in. Some countries recommend lower or higher, but this particular study said 600 to 800. So a couple important things to note. It's difficult to overdose in magnesium because if you do take too much, your bowels will just flush it. So we always recommend that you try to find your optimal dose of magnesium, and taking the powder is a really easy way to do this because you can just gradually increase your dose. You do this until your bowels are comfortably loose, and at that point you know that you've given your body enough magnesium that it can use, and then it flushes the rest through your bowels. This is very important because everybody's magnesium needs are severely different depending on their diet, lifestyle, sleep habits, exercise habits, everything. So you really have to find how much magnesium you need for your optimal health. So for those that prefer a capsule, we also offer Prismag Pure Magnesium Bisglycinate. So Prismag is also pure with no fillers. It's very effective as there's nothing impeding the absorption, and it's especially helpful for stress and sleep, as magnesium and glycine are both well studied for sleep. So all magnesium will help for sleep, but this is a little bit stronger if that's the issue that you primarily deal with. Now, you might have been listening to this presentation thinking, wow, it sounds like my magnesium is low, but how did it become low? Because I really do try to eat healthy. Well, here are a few causes of low magnesium in the body. So we talked about the soil depletion. We talked about the food choices. We talked about improper food preparation. It can also really be depleted with alcohol and sugar intake, because in order to process alcohol and sugar in the body, we need magnesium to do that. High level of physical activity, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it will cause you to use more magnesium for your muscles. Certain medications definitely impair our magnesium absorbability and our ability to get enough magnesium. Bowel troubles or absorption issues, if you have IBS, Crohn's, or anything that impairs your absorption, you might not be absorbing as much magnesium from your diet as you should be. And stress. So we talked about that magnesium stress loop, where when you're stressed, your body uses more magnesium. So it's very easy to become magnesium deficient, which is unfortunate, but the good news is that it's very easy to supplement with, and you'll feel great when you do. So if you're wondering, maybe I am magnesium deficient, but I'm not really sure, here are some common deficiency symptoms. So muscle cramps or pains in your muscles, restless legs, stress or anxiety, insomnia or restless sleep, poor bone health, hormonal imbalance, blood pressure issues, trouble focusing, low energy, or heart issues. And these are just a few of the many magnesium deficiency symptoms. So if you suspect you're deficient in magnesium, you likely are, and you would likely benefit from a magnesium supplement. So we offer a money-back guarantee on our website for you to try our magnesium with no risk. And most people say that their only regret is that they didn't try it sooner. And as we mentioned, it's safe and you can take it until bowel tolerance. So if you're interested in trying our products, we would love it if you would check your local health food store. And if they don't list us, we would really appreciate it if you would ask them to bring us in. Or if you wish to order directly from us, we are offering a coupon code for the next 72 hours as a way of saying thank you for your time for listening to this presentation, and also as a way for you to try our supplements with less of a risk. Or if you already take our supplements faithfully and you know that you love them and you need more, then please use this code. Again, it's valid for 72 hours. So for a copy of the presentation or any references used, you're free to email us at info@itlhealth.com. If you have any questions that pop up in your mind after tonight's presentation, please get in touch with me. Or if you need any help on your weight loss journey, or you have anything specific that you want to discuss with me, please don't hesitate to email us at info@itlhealth.com. So at this time, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and see if anybody has any questions for me or any comments on the presentation. And again, I want to thank you guys so much for your time. I know that it can be very tricky to log on for a webinar at 7 p.m. and we really appreciate you guys giving us your precious time. And as a mom of 3 boys with a full-time job, I know how precious, very precious time can be. So I see that we are, somebody is typing the chat and we do have a question coming. In addition to magnesium, would you recommend any other supplements for weight loss? So actually, supplements and weight loss, I don't always love supplements for weight loss because it makes it seem like you can just take a supplement and lose weight. And it's never that easy. As I mentioned, it's very complicated and we don't want to focus as much on supplements to lose weight. It has to be a whole mind, body, diet, exercise, everything lifestyle approach. So obviously, magnesium is a great start for weight loss. Another supplement that I think is really important for weight loss is a probiotic. There are studies that show that this can help reduce weight, especially because it improves your digestion, which improves your metabolism, which improves your ability to absorb nutrients. So it's really important to have proper digestion when you're trying to lose weight. So that can really help your metabolism keep flowing. Another little tip that I always give for weight loss is to practice what is known as time restricted eating. Now, this is a little bit different than intermittent fasting. You don't need to, not eat for really long periods, but basically everybody should give their body a period of rest from eating. And this not only improves your sleep, but it improves cellular regeneration. It helps your cells be healthier. It improves, studies show that it improves metabolic disorders. Even time restricted eating studies also prove that it just helps your blood sugar. So we talked about magnesium helps your blood sugar. Well, just giving your body a good rest from food also helps your blood pressure, which sometimes people think is a bit counterintuitive because they think they have to keep eating at a steady rate to improve their blood sugar, but that's not true. So minimum, everybody should give their body a 12-hour break from eating. So after dinner, you shouldn't eat anymore because in the evening, you're never snacking on good things. And also, you should try not to eat within 3 hours of bedtime so that your body can get into that deep restorative sleep. So the best rule of thumb is just don't eat after dinner. And that usually gives you at least 12 hours until your next meal, which would be breakfast. And the research shows that so that's a fast of 12 hours. If you fast for 13 hours, you get double the benefits of your 12 hours. If you fast for 14, double the 13. So it keeps going exponentially until 16 hours. The research shows that there's no benefit in not eating for longer than 16 hours. So if you're really focused and trying to lose weight, then try to eat all of your calories in that 8-hour window, but make sure that you're still eating enough. Don't just eat one meal in that 8-hour window. Otherwise, you will start to become nutrient deficient as you are only eating one meal and you're just not getting enough for your body. Great question, Liz. Does anybody else have any other questions for me? And just a reminder that if you think of a question later or the question is too personal to ask in a group chat, don't hesitate to email at info@itlhealth.com. I'll just put that in the chat so that anybody can copy it if they want to. And then just the coupon code HEALTHY30, which is 30% off for 72 hours. So thanks again for your time. Stay warm, everybody. Stay healthy. And we really hope to catch you on our next webinar. Thanks again.